Repetition is derived from the Latin word repetitium, which means to do or say again. According to the Oxford Dictionary, it means the action of repeating something that has already been said or written. In comedy, repetition is a powerful tool as it can leverage familiarity, timing, and expectations to enhance humor. In this video, I'll be talking about how repetition is an important part of comedy and how our comedy sketch incorporates repetition for comedic effect. Repetition is a very important tool writers and performers use to create comedy. It can be seen within lots of things that contain comedy, from movies, TV shows and videos, to radio, books and plays. Repetition can be seen in use to add humour. Repetition is effective in comedy as it can help build anticipation by setting up a pattern that the audience can recognise. Once they expect the pattern, any variation or twist on that pattern becomes even funnier because it plays with their expectations. Repetition can also be used to emphasise a joke. Repeating a line, phrase or concept can underline its absurdity or highlight its humour. The more the audience hears it, the more it can take on a life of its own, often becoming funnier with each iteration. Repetition also helps with memorability, because repeating a phrase or joke becomes a memorable catchphrase or moment, often sticking with the audience long after the performance. Finally, repetition can also be seen in the form of callbacks. A callback is when a joke, phrase or idea is reintroduced from earlier in the performance. This creates a sense of continuity and rewards the audience for paying attention. An example of repetition being an important factor in a comedic sequence can be seen in the waking up scenes in Groundhog Day. In these scenes, Phil, played by Bill Murray, wakes up to the song I Got You Babe and an annoying radio presenter. As Phil gets stuck in his time loop, the song, the annoying presenter, and a shot of the clock becomes a motif that appears every time we see Phil wake up. These scenes showcase the importance of repetition in a comedic sequence, as the repetition of certain shots and motifs emphasises the absurdity of the situation Phil is stuck in, and every time Phil wakes up in his time loop, he slowly becomes more deranged, from walking around in his dressing gown repeating the words of the annoying radio presenter to smashing the alarm clock to bits as it switches to 6 AM. This highlights the humour of the situation to the viewer, with each iteration of these scenes becoming more and more funnier as Phil slowly reaches his wit's end. In our comedy sketch, we utilise repetition for comedic effect. This can be seen as recurring gags, repetition of certain shots, and recurring motifs. An example of this can be seen in scenes 3, 4 and 5, where each scene starts with the camera pulling out of the computer with the last bit of the previous scene on the screen, where presumably the editor is editing the scene we, the audience, have just watched. This recurring gag emphasises the fact that this editor is stuck in some parallel universe switching time loop situation. This adding humour to our sketch as it underlines the absurdity of the situation whilst also highlighting its humour. In conclusion, repetition is a fundamental and versatile tool in comedy, serving to enhance humour through anticipation, familiarity, and the playful manipulation of audience expectations. Whether through recurring motifs, callbacks, or repeated lines, it creates memorable moments and deepens engagement. By incorporating repetition effectively, comedic works from iconic films like Groundhog Day can elevate their impact, creating sequences that resonate long after they are experienced. In our sketch, the use of repetition not only underscores the absurdity of the situation, but also draws the audience into the cynical narrative, enhancing both the humour and the story's cohesion. Repetition, when applied skillfully, proves to be an indispensable element of comedic writing and performance.